We will be starting the session, and we have very special guests with us today. So I'm not going to take a lot of time. I just want to introduce. Hi, I'm Tanuja. I'm from Team YOCKET.
Tanuja, can I stop you for a minute? The visa
Sure.
officer is not yet here. She hasn't
Okay.
joined.
All right. Okay, we can wait for her. Okay.
Wait for her.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, two people could simultaneously join from the link you'll sent, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's not yet here.
All right.
Let's just wait for her.
Sure.
Tanuja, I think we're ready to go.
Okay, that's great.
Let's just verify that the visa officer, we can
Yes.
hear her.
Hi.
Gary, can you say something just so that we can check the mic? I don't think she's on with the, I don't see the microphone on.
Let me just. Yeah, me either.
Go ahead and do your short introduction,
Sure,
and then we'll try and figure this out.
Yeah, sure. I can do that in the meantime. So, hi everyone. Hi everyone. Everyone's that here on Zoom and everyone on YouTube joining us. Thank you so much for joining in on this session. The response has been nothing short of amazing. It's been great. And let's get to why all we are here for the visa session. But before that, also, I just want to give a short introduction on YOCKET, the platform we all love and know. So I'll just share my screen quickly for that. Just a minute. Yes, so I hope everyone can see this and hear me properly on YouTube and everyone on Zoom. Welcome to the F1 visa session. We are all really excited to get into it and learn everything. And hopefully, we get to all of us, we get to go to our dream universities and have a great life. Okay. So let's talk about YOCKET a bit. So YOCKET is India's largest study abroad platform. We are also the most loved study abroad platform. We help our students with end-to-end services from the beginning till the end. We are there throughout. We help them with their applications, with their till they have gotten their visas until they have jetted off. So we are always there at every step of the way. Our YOCKET page, we have a lot of content on our page. We have blogs that help students understand about universities, about courses, about everything, scholarships. So we have a lot of those blogs online, and it is always there for students to check out. We have tools, we have a lot of tools like the College Finder, the where we can where students can go and check out like what colleges are suitable for them. They can pick out like, learn more about colleges, universities, all of that. We have a community of a lot of students. We have gotten over 1,000 admits in the top universities across the globe, which is great, and I'm really happy we were able to help so many students, and we will continue to help so many students. We have coaching. We have the YOCKET GRE Prep, which is our uh, very popular tool. Students use it to do well in their exam, do like prepare themselves, and essentially we don't leave any stone unturned for our students. We help them in every way possible to help them accomplish their goals, their dreams. And our counseling, like I cannot say enough about our counseling. That team is just great. They go above and beyond for their students. They always are in touch with them, make sure that there are no doubts that they have, make sure they know everything that is going on. Our counseling team is just great. And everyone at YOCKET is always so enthusiastic to help students, always so enthusiastic when each student gets admit into their dream university. We are always there for them, and we'll continue to be here for them. Just like with this visa session, which we really hope goes well for our students. They get to learn a lot, they get to get rid of their nervousness, their worries. So that's what we are here for today. And so I'll just take a minute to check if the mic's working now for. Hello?
Gary, can you say something from the consulate just to make sure?
Hi, can you guys all hear me?
Yeah,
We
just
can
a
hear
little louder. The
Okay,
volume.
make sure to
Yeah.
speak a little bit louder.
Okay, so we're all set.
All right. So, students, I would like to finally commence the session. I want to invite the visa officer to speak, to take the stage. And I just want to tell you guys one more thing. If you have any questions, do comment them. Like, do put them in the chat, do comment them. That is the only way we will be able to access your questions and ask them towards the end. So, yes, keep that in mind. Write down your questions because I know you'll have a lot, and we can begin with the presentation now.
Thank you very much, Tanuja, for having us here. Just give me 1 second while I share my screen.
Sure.
There we go. Good evening, students, and welcome to this talk on the applying for the higher studies in the US and applying for your student visa. My name is Ryan Pereira. I'm with Education USA. This talk has been broken down into 2 sections. In the first section, I'll talk to you all about the application process. That's what Education USA does and assist with. And then we'll have the visa officer join us to talk about how to apply for the visa, the student visa, and then we'll do a Q&A to end the session. As Tanuja mentioned, please enter your questions in the chat box or in the question box, and we'll try and take them all at the end of this presentation. So you're all here for one reason, and that is because the United States remains a top destination for international students. Okay. Currently, there are over 10 lakh students, international students from over 200 countries. Of these, India is one of the top sending countries to the US. Currently, there are 2,68,000 students from India studying at a US university. Okay. That is 1 out of every 4 international students at the US university is from India. So the US has been and continues to be a much sought after destination for Indians to pursue their higher studies. And this number that you see, 268, represents a 35% increase from the prior year. So the demand for higher studies in the United States by Indian students is growing at a good pace. So why do these Indian students want to study in the US? There are several reasons, and I'm going to touch on just a few of them. The first is the flexibility of the education system. And when we're talking about the flexibility, what do we mean? What we're talking about is the ability to pick and choose courses as per your requirements. For example, if you want to do a major in computer science, but your long-term goal is to maybe have a startup, while you're doing a master's in computer science, you could take some classes in business or entrepreneurship that will give you the skills you require to help you meet your career goals. So that flexibility is a hallmark of the US education system. You can take whatever classes you want to meet your specific needs. Then there's a choice. Currently, there are over 4,000 plus institutions of higher learning in the US. So no matter what it is you want to study, there is a US university or college that will offer that program. And we'll talk about it a little later. Because there are so many institutions of higher learning in the US, you, the student, need to be invested in this process of how to select universities that are right for you. Do not just depend on what your seniors are telling you or what others are telling you. You need to do your own homework when it comes to selecting universities. Some other aspects about why Indians choose the United States as their first choice of first destination is because of the quality. And when we're talking about quality, we're talking about the world-class research facilities, the recognition of the degree worldwide, and a very global and diverse faculty. As Education USA, we represent all the 4,000 plus universities. While we represent all these 4,000 plus universities, we know the quality of these institutions. So when you're looking for your colleges that you want to apply to, do some homework on your own, find universities that are right for you. Don't just blindly go, these are the top 10 universities in my field, so they must be good for me. You need to find universities that are right for you. And there are so many of them. And then there's a value. Because there are 4,000 plus universities, there's a wide range in the tuition and living cost. There's a range available in the cost of attending a university in terms of the tuition and also in terms of how much of financial aid a university could give. So look into all that. Find a university that fits your budget. Okay? And in addition to the cost of attending the university, the value of studying in the US comes from gaining the real world skills and the learning how a global world operates, the opportunity to do internships. All of these are skills that will help you for the rest of your life. And so that's where the value of a US education comes. It's not just the sticker price or how much of financial aid you're getting. It's these non-tangible aspects that are also very, very valuable to and why students want to pursue higher studies in the US. So that 268,000 number that we saw earlier tells us two things. The first is that the US is a sought-after destination of higher studies for Indian students. But the second thing it tells us is that applying and being admitted to a US university is easier than you may think. The process itself is quite long, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you do things the right way and keep it streamlined, then it is a very straightforward process. So 4,000 plus universities, how do you choose one that's right for you? This is something that I cannot emphasize enough. You need to do your own homework on this. Everybody wants to tell you, oh, this is a good university. Students are having good experiences when they go here. Or this is a university that accepts this GRE score that fits your thing. Don't believe all that. Do your own homework. You have to find universities that are right for you. Just because somebody else had a good experience or somebody else had a bad experience at the university doesn't mean that you're going to have a similar experience. Your goals and your way of operating is very different from the other person. And so you need to find a university that's right for you. So when you're looking for universities, you could look at various aspects, the cost, the diversity, the facilities, the education, and the location. Let's talk a little bit about each of these aspects. So when we're talking, you're going there to study. So the education is going to be the focus of why you want to pursue higher studies. So pay attention to the academic programs. You can look at the rankings. Okay? We're not, Education USA is not saying that it's bad to look at rankings. You can look at rankings, but don't use rankings as your only criteria that you will use to select universities. There are other aspects to it. The admission rate, how many students, if 100 apply, how many are admitted, or if 100 start the program, how many graduate on time. These are other things that need to be taken into account. In addition, what is the strength of the faculty in the area that you're interested in? What kind of research is going on? Are there opportunities to do research as an undergraduate? All of these are things to think about when you're looking for universities. Then you also have to, not just the education that you're going there, you also have to look what are the support services that the university offers in terms of research, in terms of recreation, transportation, and also dining options. Excuse me. When it comes to research, if you're a master's student, can you do a master's project and then get the support from the university to present that at a conference? Okay. That kind of thing is going to be very, very important for your networking abilities and to show that, yay, I'm good at this field. Okay. So those are kinds of things to look for when you're looking for universities. What kind of recreation? Because it's not just going there to study. You have to stay healthy. So what are the facilities that the university offers to let you blow off some steam, okay, to help you stay balanced between your studies and your downtime? What kind of transportation facilities does the university have? And for a lot of Indians, what are the dining options? Generally speaking, the US universities, they have so many students from India that they take very good care of all international students, including the students from India. And this includes providing them with a wide range of dining options. So usually there'll be a lot of buffets where students can go and pick and choose whatever is right for them. Then we want to look at the location. Do you want to study in a university that's close to your relative? Where a lot of times people say, my relative lives in New Jersey, so I'm going to study in a university in New York or New Jersey. That might all be well and true that your relative is there. But keep in mind that the US is a big country. Just because your relative lives in a town, that doesn't mean that you might be able to commute to the university. Having a relative close by is good, but make sure that, one, you want to live with a relative and that you can commute to the university you've been admitted to. It's not always going to be easy. So keep this in mind. Check and see whether you want to be in a small town, what in the US are called college towns, or which is a rural location generally, or in a big city where the college is part of a big city. And then also look at the weather. Cold climate, warm climate, 4 seasons. So you have to decide what is it that you want for yourself. Another hallmark of the US university system is the diversity that you're going to see on a US campus. On the big research universities, you'll have students from almost 100 different countries, all there with one goal, to learn together. So understanding how people from different countries work and operate gives you a leg up when you go out in the global world later on. When it comes to the cost of the education, as I mentioned, with 4,000 plus universities, there is a wide range in terms of the cost. You have universities that, as you can see at the bottom, the tuitions can range from 12,000 a year to 57,000 a year. In addition, on average, the living expenses will be around 12 to 18,000 a year. So you have to, when you're thinking about cost of attending a university, you have to take both the living expenses as well as the tuition into account. Don't just say, this is the tuition, it's affordable, so I'm going to go there and work to pay for my education. It will not be enough. You need to have a well thought of plan on how you're going to pay for your education. Studying in the United States can seem to be expensive, but there are several ways that you can fund your education. And I'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. So there are several opportunities to reduce the cost of attending a university. You could get financial aid from the university. This financial aid could be in the TA, RA, or a work study, working on campus. Lots of opportunities that are there to reduce your cost of attending the university. The scholarships and the good financial aid from the university is almost always based on the merit of the student and how badly the university or the department wants that particular student. Okay. Then you have the on-campus work. So students can work for up to 20 hours a week while the university is in session and 40 hours a week during the breaks on campus. This is enough. You can earn enough to pay for your living expenses, but keep in mind, your primary goal is to go there to study. Will working 20 hours a week at a relatively low-paying job affect your studies, or more importantly, affect your ability to network and build on your career? So don't just say, I'm going to go work 20 hours a week. You could be cutting down on the amount of time spent doing well in your studies, amount of time spent doing good projects, amount of time spent networking. So those are really, really important things that will help you in your career later on. So you have to really decide, is on-campus employment a good, do I really need to do it? Will I be hurting my career if I do this? But it is an option available for you all. Then you can have scholarships from your home government. In addition to being Education USA, I also represent the Fulbright Commission. So we have the Fulbright Nehru fellowships available for certain in certain master's fields that are available. These are fully funded fellowships. Well, it's funded up to $80,000 over 2 years for master's students in about 10 fields. And then you can get loans from both the US or the Indian banks. So when you're thinking about how to pay for your education, it's not just about, this is what my parents can afford, so I have to choose a university within that. Use a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and that's how you put together your total finances to help you fund your US education. It's not one size fits all. This is an example of some of the scholarships. I just mentioned the Fulbright Nehru fellowships that my office has, administers for the US government and the Indian government. Then there are university-specific scholarships. So people who are admitted to the University of Dayton can apply to the Dayton International Scholarship. That's only for international students who attend the University of Dayton. So there are quite a number of them. Go to the universities that you're applying to and make a list of all the scholarships that are available for international students at that particular university. Then you can look at the Indian business houses. As part of the CSR, a lot of the business houses have scholarship opportunities. So the better known ones are the J.N. Tata Trust, the K.C. Mahindra Trust, okay? The Naratham Saxeria Scholarship, and the Sahu Jain Trust. So these are some. Do your homework, make a list of all the scholarships that are available, because each of these have different eligibility criteria, different deadlines, different application processes. So put them all into Excel sheets so that things are streamlined. And you can also look for external scholarships from international organizations, including US organizations such as the Rotary Club the Society of Women Engineers, and all these others that are available. So once you've figured out which universities you want to apply to and how you're going to pay for it, now comes the actual application process. And this is where I said right at the beginning, the application process itself is long. But if you do things the right way and you keep yourself organized, it can be very, very smooth. You should start thinking about this process and start the process itself 12 to 18 months before you actually want to go to the US. So this is the timeline we have. So you should start thinking about what schools do I want to apply to? Which programs do I want to pursue there? Why do I want to pursue higher studies in the first place? And why do I want to pursue higher studies in the United States? What am I going to pick up by doing this program? Then you start looking at narrowing down your list of universities to about 8 to 10. Take the exams, the GRE, the TOEFL, the other English exams, Duolingo, PTE, or IELTS. Or if you're applying for the business programs, you could be thinking about the GMAT. And if you're undergraduate, you could look at the SAT or ACT. So you should plan on taking these exams about 1 year at least before you leave for the US, want to join the US. One difference between the US, applying to the US and other countries, including India, is that the applications for international students are usually sent to US universities 8 to 10 months in advance. So if you all are looking at August 2024, this October to December period is when you need to be sending in your applications. Once you send in your applications by December, between January and March, the universities will review the applications. And once they review the applications, they let you know whether you've been admitted. And if you've been admitted, have you been given any scholarship? And once you receive the admission letter from the university, they will send you a document called the I-20. And with that I-20, you will apply for the visa. I now invite the visa officer to take over.
Hi, everyone. You can still hear me, right?
Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, great. Just wanted to double check that. Okay, yeah, so now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the actual application for your visa, which is an important step in your process of studying in the United States. So as we've sort of been talking about through this presentation, as long as you're prepared, this should go pretty smoothly, and there are certain designated steps that you must follow. Okay, so before we begin to get into the specifics of the application process, I just really want to emphasize that student visas do remain a top priority for the US mission to India. It's one of our most important bilateral relationships in the world, and we're very committed to facilitating the people-to-people connections that form the foundations of this relationship. And just to give you some statistics, we're on process to we're tracking well over 1 million visa applications in 2023, higher than almost any country in the world. And we've even expanded our teams in our facilities in India by 15 to 20%. So the US is really dedicating a lot of resources to adjudicating visas in India specifically because they're a really important relationship for us. So yeah, we've issued a record number of student visas in 2022. And we're dedicating more and more resources to this going forward as well. So a note on our interview waiver policy: any student who has had any type of non-immigrant visa before is eligible for an interview waiver. So that means you don't have to come in for an interview. So if you're applying for a student visa and you've had, again, any type of non-immigrant visa before, for example, a B1, B2 non-immigrant visa, you can apply for an interview waiver. This is not, this is different than an immigrant visa, which is more based on your relationship to somebody living in the US. These are just non-immigrant visas that are usually for short-term stays in the US. So be sure to check out that requirement because it does help with our visa casework and demand for interviews. If you're eligible for the interview waiver, do the interview waiver. So the first step in the visa application process is to request a form called an I-20 from your university. So universities, as we've kind of been saying, are well aware of international students and their procedures and how to facilitate their application process. So your university is going to know exactly what an I-20 is and help work with you to complete the I-20 and finalize that form. And then the next step is you're going to actually apply for your visa on a form called the DS-160. And you would apply on that website that's up there in the PowerPoint after creating a user account. And then once you've completed the application, the DS-160, then you pay for the visa application and your SEVIS fees. And SEVIS is just an organization that sort of monitors your student status and ensures that you have a valid student status before and while you're in the US. So once you've done that, you're going to schedule 2 appointments. The first is at the biometrics, for biometrics at the Visa Application Center, what we call the VAC. So you're going to do that no more than 50 days before your scheduled interview date. So pretty close in time to your interview date, you'll schedule the appointment at the VAC. And you're going to bring your passport and your DS-160, the visa application form, to your VAC appointment. And then appointment 2 is going to be your visa interview at the actual embassy or consulate here in India. And then you're going to, of course, attend the VAC and interview appointments that you've scheduled. Okay, so then you're going to have your interview. So you'll come into the US Embassy or US Consulate in one of our locations in India, and you're going to go through a multi-step process. The first step involves doing some biometrics. So we'll take your application and your fingerprints, and then you'll talk to the next person, which will be the visa officer, which is myself, for example. There are many of us throughout India, but you're going to basically have a conversation with the visa officer. And that's really what I would like to emphasize here. There's no reason to be nervous. This is an interrogation. It's a conversation with the officer. So just come to your interview prepared, have a plan, and on the basics of your education. So have a plan about why you've chosen your university, how you're going to pay for your university, as well as, think about how this makes sense to you individually. So kind of as we were talking about before, when you're actually choosing your university, you want to think about a lot of different factors that make it a good fit for you personally. It's the kind of information, the same kind of information that you're going to actually be talking about in your interview, about why you chose that university, how it's a good fit for you and your future plans after your education as well. So they're usually pretty short interviews. You'll need your passport and that I-20 form from your university. Be prepared to answer questions. The visa officer can ask any sorts of things about your education or your plans. One thing that's not on the slide that I will just add, we are fully well aware that there are lots of people advising students for their visa appointments. Some of the advice is good, some of it's not. So we suggest you do not listen to other people's advice and just focus on your own experience, your own motivations, reasons for choosing that university, your own student path and progress and future career goals. Do not come to the interview with a memorized speech that makes you less of a credible applicant. You need to have your own credible plan. So yeah, just make sure you're presenting yourself in a way that reflects who you are as an individual person and your motivations for choosing that university. So after the interview, if your visa is approved, then the officer is going to keep your passport and you'll get the passport back once your visa is printed in the passport. You'll receive an email or an SMS telling you that it's ready. Usually it's done in a week or less, sometimes more like three to 5 business days. But it's unless there's some extenuating circumstances, it's usually a week or less that it'll be ready. So some additional important dates to remember, student applicants should not schedule their visa interview dates until you have your I-20 in hand. So like you physically have it with you, you have to bring it with you to your interview. So wait until you have your I-20 to schedule your visa interview. And also note that you can't travel to the US super far in advance of your start date for your educational program. You can only be admitted, which means only enter the US 30 days or less in advance of the start date of your program. Vaccinations and COVID tests, this has changed obviously a lot in recent years, but non-immigrant air passengers no longer need to show proof of being fully vaccinated to board a flight to the US. But you can always check out the US CDC Center for Disease Control website for additional information about vaccines and testing. Okay, we can go over some facts and frequently asked questions. So for example, if you have applied for a visa but were refused, yes, you can apply again is the short answer. But we are committed to providing qualified students with the opportunity to do an interview. So it's often very difficult to schedule a second interview. So that's not the priority for us. We want to make sure that we're getting to everyone the first time. So in no way, shape, or form should you count on having the opportunity to have a second interview. I received my university acceptance but cannot see any visa appointments. When will I see appointments? So we know that we understand this process. This is the basic outline of this process is what we do worldwide in every country that we're present in. So we do understand how this works for international students, and we know that you don't have your acceptance letters and your paperwork until just a few months before your program start date. So we release appointments for students around that time. They're released in large batches, and that's partially a protection for you so that our visa agents that are out there don't take all of the visa applications far in advance. And just so you know, for the past couple of years, I think let's say the last 3 years, we've seen really unprecedented growth in student visa demand, as we've kind of been saying throughout this presentation. But we meet that demand. We anticipate it, we plan for it, we plan ahead. We know that there's going to be a lot of student visa applications out there, especially during the summertime, and then to a lesser extent right about now in the wintertime for people with start dates in January. So we know this, we plan ahead, we meet demand for it. So it's nothing to be concerned about. Yeah, and I don't have to go through all this info, but here's a good resource if you have any additional questions. You can check out our website, ustraveldocs.com, as well as Education USA's contact info is also up there for you.
Thank you very much. We'll now take some questions. Tanuja, will you moderate the question and answer?
Sure, I'll do that.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. All right. So a lot of questions are coming from students specifically about the 352-day rule. Can you give students some clarification regarding that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? The 352-day rule?
Yeah, I guess a lot of students are asking, like, there is a 352-day rule that they need some clarification on.
Can I get some clarification on the clarification question? I don't know.
Carrie, let me jump in here for a minute. There are some rumors swirling around that a student who's been denied a visa has to wait for 352 days before they can reapply. That was what they are asking about.
Thank you for the clarification. As you can tell by my response, this is not true because this is the first time I'm hearing of it. No, I mean, as I was saying earlier, we monitor and schedule different categories of visa applicants in different ways. So, for example, if you're applying as a student or if you're applying as a tourist, there are going to be slightly different opportunities that are available for visa appointments. With students, we know that demand is so high. As we've been telling you with the numbers, student demand for visas in India is just like record breaking every year. In fact, this past year that we processed the most we've ever processed. So, which I think was, let's see, more than 125,000 student visas, more than any other country last year. So because of that, and because of the short window of opportunity we have to schedule and adjudicate these visa applications, because of the narrow time frame between when you get your paperwork and when course schedules start, we do not prioritize at all interviews, second interviews. So there is no time wait limit that you have to abide by if you're trying to reschedule a second interview, but our systems are built in such a way that it's probably just not even going to be possible for you to schedule a second interview within a time frame that makes sense for you to still get to your university and start your education program on time. And that's, also, I would be remiss if I didn't also say that we know when you've applied for a visa before. We know what happened at your prior visa interview. So for consistency's sake and transparency, unless you had some significant change in your circumstances, we advise people to not reapply until something about your situation has changed significantly. Otherwise, you're probably going to get the same outcome.
Okay, thank you for taking that question up. The next question is, does having only one or two admits affect on your visa application, on the rejection or the approval?
So I think what this is asking is like whether you've only been admitted to one or two universities and whether that has an effect on your ability to get a visa. No, not inherently on its own. We've been talking throughout this presentation about like this entire process being unique to you and your story and your future plans and goals. Even in the US, Americans, some of them apply to one university because they know that's exactly where they want to go. They're super motivated to go there for very specific reasons. But other people really don't know, and they apply to 10, sometimes even 20 universities, which is kind of a lot. But it really depends on the individual and their motivations and kind of just their preferences. So it's not inherently bad, but at the same time, with the caveat that you never know for sure where you're going to be admitted into. So, just as a piece of advice to people applying to universities, you might not want to put all of your eggs in one basket if you don't know for sure that you're going to get in there. So you might want to think about diversifying where you're applying to a little bit.
Okay, we have a question from our premium user. It says, does having a non-immigrant visa help with the student visa interview?
So, no, it shouldn't have any, again, like inherent effect on whether or not your visa is approved or denied. you're applying for a very different type of visa and a very different purpose of going to America. So it's not inherently necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. But I mean, again, I want to emphasize that we do look at the person as a whole and your entire application, who you are as a person, which can include your travel history or other things about your situation that you're including in your application. So everything is looked at and considered and thought about and thought through when making that ultimate decision. But it's not like a single factor like that that's going to influence anything or determine the outcome.
Okay, so the next question is, if I defer from spring to fall, will I have to fill the DS 160 again? And do I need to update the visa website or like whatever is the conditions for that?
I think it depends. That's a little bit of a technical question that I personally haven't been through this process, obviously, because I'm not an international student. But I think it depends a little bit about where you already are in the process. Like if you already have your visa interview scheduled, you can and like you're not ready for it, you're not prepared for it, you can try to reschedule that. But I think that was kind of the question, and hopefully that I answered that sufficiently. But yeah, you can try to reschedule your appointment.
All right. Okay, so in your experience, what has been the most common reason for a rejection of a student visa?
I think generally just not being a genuine applicant and person in front of the officer. I know it can be an intimidating process to come into a U.S. consulate and talk to a visa officer. You know, we are aware of that, but we try to make it more of a conversation. So you shouldn't be nervous. There's really no reason to be nervous. Be confident in your decision.
I'll call you back. I'm in a visa talk with right now. Yocket. Okay, yeah, bye.
So yeah, just making sure that you are prepared to answer even, you know, the most basic of questions about your own personal motivations, really for choosing that university. I think is a big one. About we just want to know why are you choosing to go there? What are your future motivations and stuff like that. It's not a test, it's not a quiz. I'm not gonna personally, as an officer, I'm not gonna ask you anything that's on your I-20 because I have that in front of me. That information's already there. That's not helpful to me. So I'm not gonna quiz you on the address of your university. Lots of people like to say that. Not impressive, don't care. It's already right there. So think about it more from that perspective. It's not a test. Be a genuine applicant.
All right. So our next question is there any option available that one can get the visa slot urgently if their course is like about to start in, let's say, January 2024 itself?
That is a good question. If you're, I mean, I would say the first thing that I would say is that if you have a start date that falls sort of before our next appointment opening, you can consider talking to your school about the possibility of delaying your program start date or deferring admission. As generally, we do not process visas outside of our designated student visa sessions. So if you're trying to get a visa that's not, you know, peak summertime or for a month or two in the fall here at this time of year, that's not going to happen. You can check our website to see if we are offering expedited appointments for students. I think we've sort of gone back and forth on that. So I don't want to tell you, yes, we have expedited appointments, or no, we don't, because I do think that's something that changes based on what we're seeing for demand and stuff like that. So for your first course should be probably just to see if you can delay your admission for a semester if you're not ready to start and not ready for your visa appointment. But you can always check our website, that ustraveldocs.com that we had in the previous slide, to see whether expedited appointments are an option for you.
Great. So either of you can take up this next question. Do regional universities have low visa acceptance rate than national universities?
Barry, you want to take that on?
Sure. So no, and yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not even sure actually what would define a regional university from a national university. There are, lots of reports about, like rankings of universities and stuff like that. So you can see where your university that you're thinking about falls into rankings, as we talked about earlier. But of course, as we also talked about, that should just be one factor in your overall reason for selecting a university. But yeah, I mean, I think for your own benefit and your own future goals and ambitions, if you can go to a better university, of course you should go to a better university. But that alone is not like a factor that should influence your visa decision. But perhaps if you are a really motivated student who can really get into a top university and go to a really a good school, then I think that could also reflect on your genuineness as a student. And I think that could also be a positive factor for you in your visa interview. So I hope that makes sense. It's not directly a factor, but one, I think it can help yourself. So you should try to go to a better university if you can. And that could also help you with your future goals.
Great. Okay. Next question is, if I fill the DS-160 for one visa consulate and schedule an appointment with the other consulate, is that a problem?
No, that's not a problem. And in fact, one of the things that we do want to emphasize is that, as we've been talking about through this presentation, there's a lot of demand for student visas from India. So one of the things that we suggest is actually being flexible. If an appointment isn't in your preferred city, you are allowed to seek an appointment in a different consulate if they have availability. So yeah, once you have that application in and you schedule your appointment, you can go to a different consulate in India.
All right. So our next question is, what are the guidelines to be a sponsor for someone who's like living in USA, suppose a brother or a relative? So what are their guidelines that they should follow as a sponsor?
I'm not exactly sure what this is getting at, to be honest. To be a sponsor, which I'm taking just to mean that somebody's paying for your education. Obviously, they should, I think this goes without saying, be paying for your education. So actually doing it, and also having at your interview, you need to be able to explain how they're doing it. Don't just tell me that your uncle has a job. I don't know what that means. What does he do? What kind of money is he making? You got to be more specific than that. So think about how that's going to translate and come across in an interview, and be ready to answer more specific questions or detailed questions about your sponsor and how they're going to pay for your education. And I'll be completely honest, as an American in India, I think this is sort of a something that I've had to learn here. That's different than my previous assignments in other countries, because I'll be honest, on its face, the numbers don't always make sense. Education in the US, as we've been talking about, is very, very, very expensive. Tens of thousands of US dollars per year, if not upwards of 50,000 US dollars. And salaries can be very low in India. So just be prepared to explain how it makes sense that somebody can afford to go all the way to the US and pay for a very expensive education.
Right. Okay. So our next question is, when will the refused slot be released?
So I think this is asking when appointments for prior refusals are released.
That is correct.
Okay. So, eh, I don't know that I can answer that specifically for this time. There might not be appointments at all. Again, I want to emphasize that for any people in the situation where you're a student and you've been refused a visa. We don't prioritize that at all. And I don't have numbers in front of me of like how many people we've allowed to reapply in past seasons. But it could be zero, it could very likely be that, or we could find that it's not a good, it's not an effective use of interview slots. So perhaps in the future, we don't allow for any people to re-interview. I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no. The policy on that also can change from student season to student season. So I can't really give a definitive answer for that. As with any type of visa application, you can always monitor our website for cancellations or openings. So if you're really interested in going back for another interview after you've been refused, that would be my advice to you. Just keep checking your website to see if there's any openings that you can sign up for.
All right. So our next question is, does getting an admit in a state like New York or California affect the visa application or like the visa acceptance?
No, and the reason I find this a little amusing is because I actually don't even know the person who asked this question. I don't know what he or she was thinking. Maybe they're thinking that's a more positive thing, or maybe they're thinking it's a more negative thing, but I think it's telling that I don't even know where that question was leading. So no, it does not matter where specifically you're going to university or the specific school that you're going to. You just have to explain it. So if you want to go to a rural place in the middle of Arkansas in the US, half of you probably don't even know where that is in the US, which is fine. But you have to, explain why you want to go there and why it makes sense for you to go there and what you're going to like about living there, and that sort of responses. Thinking through your motivations for going to that location is more important than the location itself.
Right, of course. Okay. What is like a few things or one thing, main thing that you would recommend a student to absolutely not do in their interview?
I think what I was saying before, when you come to the interview and don't even listen to the question, you just start with your memorized speech, and I see that a lot. Be careful to take a deep breath before you start your interview and just relax and think of it as literally a conversation with the visa officer. They're going to ask you some questions, and it's likely that the first question they ask you might not be what you're thinking they're going to ask you. So take a deep breath, regain your cognitive sense, and think about what they're asking and respond to the question that they're asking, not what you think you should say or what you've been trained to say. Just respond to the questions, and I think that goes a long way.
Okay, that's it from our side. And thank you for taking the questions. The ones you maybe even did not understand, you still answered them very well. I'm sure the students have all the answers now, and they will be prepared and they will prepare themselves for the journey to come ahead. I just want to say thank you to both of you and for joining the session, for taking the time out. It's been great. And I hope we can help the students always. So that's it from our side. Any last words from you guys?
No, just thank you for facilitating, and best of luck to everyone.
Good luck, everybody. Take care.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you students on Zoom. Thank you everyone on YouTube. This has been Tanuja from YOCKET, and all the best.